Hey guys, welcome back to the Chase Card. So you'd like to know what the most valuable Chase cards are in Pokemon's Crown Zenith? Let's go take a look. Thanks for joining me once again on the Chase Card, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'll be looking at Crown Zenith's top Chase cards that you'd want to be looking for if you are cracking open Crown Zenith packets. We're not only going to talk about the top Chase card or the top few Chase cards, we're going to be looking at pretty much anything over $10 American in this set, just to give you an idea of how much depth is in this set and why it is such a popular set. Crown Zenith is one of the better sets from Sword and Shield, so let's get straight into it. Let's have a look at what cards you need to be looking out for when you're breaking open packs. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Today there might be about 15, 16 cards or so. This is not a top 10 video, as I always say. I'm looking at any cards over $10 American, according to the data in tcgplayer.com. So there might be 10 cards, there might be 20 cards. We're going to look at everything over 10 bucks. Starting right here with the Leafeon V. This is the lower end. We're starting at the lower end and working our way up. This is the lower end. Trading at $10.19 today, as I filmed this in January 2024. $10.21. So basically, if we look at the charting on this Leafeon V card, over the last 3 months, as you'll see a trend with many of these cards and many of these sets, the cards tend to dip down quite severely once they're out there in the marketplace for a long period of time. Initially, they always start very high and then they taper off. So you'll see that trend very commonly. I'm not going to keep reiterating that. You'll see that as we go constantly. So $13.70 back in sort of mid-November, and it went all the way down here to just under 10 bucks in December, about a month later. So about a 25% or so drop. Now in the last month, it has sort of been pretty consistent, starting about a month ago at 10.45 and sitting at 10.21. So it hasn't changed a lot over the last month, give or take a couple of dips. It's maintained its path since its initial drop. It's maintaining that sort of $10 mark. But moving on to something more interesting now, slightly more interesting. $12.19, we have the Zoro AR, the Hisuian Zoro AR V-Star from Crown Zenith. Most of these cards, pretty much all of these cards except for one that I'm going to show you in Crown Zenith, are all from the Galarian Gallery, bar one trainer card, which we're going to get to. But this is the Zoro AR V-Star. Again, like I said, you're going to see a trend with all these dropping off. Back in mid-November, this was at a high of $16.40. It's come plummeting all the way down to just under 12 bucks, and now sits at around $12.20. That's the Zoro AR V-Star from Crown Zenith's Galarian Gallery. Next, we have the Ara trainer card. I actually quite like this card. It's worth a hell of a lot more in the Japanese, which you would pull this from the Japanese V-Star Universe collection, is the equivalent to the English Crown Zenith. So the Ara trainer card, over the last month, it's also tanked. So it's not maintaining any consistency. It's not showing any signs that it's reached its bottom yet. From $14.50 a month ago down to $12, back up to $13, and now sitting around just over $12. You can see over the last 6 months here, it's absolutely tanked. Beautiful card. Might be a good time to pick it up, but to be honest, I'd wait. I'd still wait if you want this card. There's no clear signs that this card has hit the bottom. If you do like this card, I'd recommend going to the V-Star Universe version. The Japanese trainer cards are a lot more sought after than the English trainer cards. So that's the Irida. Next, we have the Suun V from the Galarian Gallery. 1 month ago, this card was trading at $15.50, and now it's sitting at $15.18. So the last month, it's been pretty consistent. We can look at the 6-month trend here. 6 months ago, this card was basically just over $16, and now it's just over $15. So it hasn't dropped off as much as some of the cards, though it has dropped off slightly. 3 months, we've gone from 16 down to 15. So it hasn't gone down too much, the Suun V. Try saying that 3 times fast. Suun V sitting just over $15. Not a bad card. Next we have the Entei V. Basically, this Entei V, it's quite a nice card. I don't have this one yet, despite opening about 150 Crown Zenith packs. You can see a month ago this card was $17.22. Now it's just over $16. So this one has kind of held up a little bit. It hasn't plummeted like some of the others. So it may have found its bottom. If we look back over a 6-month period, this card started around $13.40, just over $13, all the way through August, September, October. It was around $14-15, and then here in the first week or two of November, it basically doubled in price. It had a massive spike. In fact, on the graph here, in that first week of November, that first 2 weeks of November, it looks like Entei took a Viagra and it's just shot straight up. So $31 back in November, and then straight away within 2 weeks of that it plummeted again back down to $16. So I don't know what caused that interest for it to double in price for a few weeks, but it's dropped back down. If you take away that spike in the early November, it's actually done pretty well over 6 months. It's gone up $13.40 to $16.40 where it sits today. So taking away that big spike in November, if you did buy in mid-November, you'd be at a loss now. But if you bought along any of the rest of the past 6 months, you would have done okay. This card's held its value over 6 months. Over 3 months, it's held its value, going from $15.80 to $16.40. So Entei V, good card, hasn't dropped like like a lot of the rest of them. Next we have the Dark Ray V-Star, so we're starting to get up over that $15 mark with some of these cards now. The Dark Ray V-Star, again, is bucking the trend, one of the better holding performers in Crown Zenith. A month ago was, where are we, $15.30, and now it's sitting at $16.80. So up slightly on the month. 3 months ago was $16.50, and it's pretty much where it's at. So for the last 3 months, it's maintained a consistent value and doing quite well. It's actually up on 6 months slightly. So the Entei V and the Dark Ray V-Star, both around that $15, $16 mark, are the two cards so far that are holding up quite nicely. The Glacial V has tanked from $19.30 6 months ago. Well, it hasn't tanked, actually. It's a bit unfair. It's gone down slightly from just over 19 to just over 17 in the last month. In the last 3 months, it's gone down a couple of bucks from 19 to 17. Did hit a high in that first week of November of $20. A lot of these cards seem to have spiked a little bit in that first week or two of November, so I'm not sure what happened there. I guess at Christmas time, a lot of people run low on funds. 6 months here, it's actually down from 6 months ago, slightly down, and down about 10 to 15% from its highs. But $17 card, American dollars, the Glacial V, quite a nice card. Next we have the Raichu V. A month ago this card was selling at $17.80, and it's just over $18 now. So over the month it's held its value quite well. It's higher than it was 6 months ago. It was $16.80, and now it's over $18. Raichu V, I've pulled 2 or 3 of these cards. I'll be sending them off to get graded with PSA soon. But the Raichu V, very popular card, great artwork, and maintaining its value quite well. Okay, so we have next up Elisa Sparkle, full art trainer card. Now this is not part of the Galarian Gallery. This is the only card above $10 in Crown Zenith that is not actually part of the Galarian Gallery. Elisa Sparkle. Now this thing it's gone pear-shaped. This thing, like from 6 months ago, look at that graph. $26, $27 all the way down. September down, October down to 22. November, that first week or two of November, where we saw actually a spike in some of the other cards, this thing went further down. So that hit 20 bucks down from 27, and then had a little bounce, a bit of a dead cat bounce, like a week later, 2 weeks later, in late November to $22, but then just kept continuing its downward spiral. $20, $19, sitting just over $19 now, $19.40 according to TCG Player. Elisa Sparkle, quite a nice card. It did seem to be quite popular initially, but it's just gone off a cliff. Elisa Sparkle. So if you're looking to pick up this card, I think it doesn't give me any signs that it's finished dropping. As they say in the stock market, don't try and catch a falling knife. So this thing looks like it's got further to go south. So might be worth holding off on picking up Elisa Sparkle if you do need it for your collection. Next up, we have the Leafeon V-Star. So we're hitting the cards over $20 now. This one's $21.40 or $21.80, thereabouts. If we go back 6 months, the Leafeon V-Star was $22 and now it's just under $22. So pretty consistent for the last 6 months, this one. If we go back 1 month, it started off sort of mid-December around $21. Hit a low at the start of the year, the first week of 2024, hit a low of $19.30, $19.35. Climbed back up to 22, now sitting just under 22 bucks. Over the 3 month period, it's down slightly again, going just under 20 in December, and again in January, and sitting just over $22 now. Quite a nice card. We do have this card in our collection. Yeah, cool card, Leafeon V-Star. It hasn't gone pear-shaped as much as some of the others. It's not gone down a lot. Been fairly consistent. So it might be worth picking up now, unless you could hold off a bit longer, but it's been pretty consistent. It hasn't really crashed like some of the others. So Leafeon V-Star. Now we start getting into the top tier cards of Crown Zenith. So this is the Origin Form Dialga V-Star Secret Rare. Now, these gold-looking cards, I think there's 4 of them in total. We'll go through them in a second. But this is the cheaper of those gold cards. So the Origin Form Dialga V-Star, if we go back 6 months, it's crashed from... Well, it had a high of $37 back in late August. And it went from 37 down to 32 pretty quickly within about a month into early mid-September. And it's been so volatile. This almost looks like a chaotic heartbeat, this graph. So up and down and up and down. And now it's just sort of... It looks like it may have found a bottom here around that $32 mark. So if you could pick up... it hasn't gone under $30. Low of 31, low of 31, low of 31. It might have found its bottom. It might be worth picking this card up now. Now, I don't know how up-to-date TCG Player is with its pricing, but I'm sure if you look on eBay, this card's selling for a lot more than $32 American. So if you can pick up a good copy, it might be a good time to buy this Dialga V-Star if you do want it for your collection. Now, this one is definitely going against the grain. This one is really going up in value quite well. This is the Origin Form Palkia V-Star Secret Rare, the next gold card on the list. So this one's almost $40 now, 38 bucks. As of filming, we're about 2 weeks into January now. And from a month ago, $33 up to $38. If we go 6 months back, it was actually at $36, almost $37, and now it's just over $38. So over a 6 month period, it's basically slightly up and basically gone back to its original pricing. A lot of them have gone off a cliff and stayed there. Some have gone off a cliff and kind of found their bottom, maybe started to rise. This one is actually at its highest it's ever been at $38, this Palkia V-Star. And if you were lucky enough to buy it sort of 3 months ago rather than 6 months ago, when it was a lot more popular or a lot newer, then you would have picked it up in the low 30s. Even if you picked it up in late November, 33 bucks, you would have done alright, because it's now almost 40 bucks. And this, we just shrink it down to a month. This trend line here, this is going one way, and that's north. So, if you really want this Origin Form Palkia V-Star Secret Rare, I wouldn't be waiting. This one shows all this. Anything can happen. It can go off a cliff tomorrow. Anything can happen. But at the moment, it's suggesting that it's just going to keep going north based on this trend line. So that's the Origin Form Palkia V-Star. Never been a better time to pick it up. It's got more chance of continuing to rise. And if you can get a good copy and get it graded in a 10, you can really secure that value. One of my favourite, and unfortunately one of a lot of people's favourites, is this Mewtwo V-Star from the Galarian Gallery. Well, they're all from the Galarian Gallery anyway, aren't they? Rather, minus the Elisa Sparkle. So the Mewtwo V-Star 6 months ago was $51. It's now at $48. I had a low of $45 back in sort of the end of December, start of January, and now it's $48. If we go back a month, it's slightly up on the month. It's slightly up on the month. About a month ago, $46, now just over $48. This Mewtwo V-Star, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I heard this Mewtwo V-Star had something like more than 11,000 PSA 10s. This is a heavily graded card. It is my favourite card from the set, but like I said, unfortunately, it's a lot of people's favourite card. It's just such a cool card. Mewtwo fighting the Charizard in battle. Obviously, you've got the other card that matches this is the Charizard V-Star from the opposing side. Great in a set together. If you can get them both graded in a PSA 10 or a BGS 10, and just they look great on display. Awesome card. Awesome card. It is up on the month slightly. Over a 3-month period, it's slightly down, but it does look to be pretty consistent around that $45, $46 mark. Will it go down further? Possibly, but it may have found its bottom at around that $45 mark. Look, if you like the card and you're not worried about making a profit or a loss on the card, just pick up the card. I probably paid a bit too much for this card. I bought the Japanese version in a PSA 10 a bit sort of mid last year. I really love this card. I've also pulled this card in an English version from Crown Zenith, the one we're looking at right now, but that's not being graded at this stage. But lovely card, Mewtwo V-Star. Now we get up into the higher echelons. These cards now are all over $50. So $55, we've got the Arceus V-Star Secret Rare Gold card. If we go back 1 year, Crown Zenith is a year old now. Hard to believe. Came out in January 2023. This card was $108, and that valuation has been more than chopped in half in the last 12 months. But as you know, these cards always come strong out of the gate. People pay way too much for them when they first come out. And unfortunately, people will continue to pay too much for these cards when they're brand new. We go back 6 months, it was $63. Again, it's $56 today, $55. 3 months ago, it was over $60. It had a low of sort of $51 back in December, up to $57, back down to $52. So it looks like it's leveling out. And if you go back in the last month, $58 to $55, it looks like it could be on its way up. But again, the time frame is really too small to tell. But it does look like it may have found its bottom. The lows aren't getting any lower at the moment. So we had a low there of 52, then the next low was sort of 55. So we'll see. You could go 50-50 with this one. You could wait a bit longer if you're looking to pick it up and see if it bottoms out a bit more. Crown Zenith was a heavily printed set, as we all know. But one of the more fun sets to open. But there you are, $55, almost half the price of what it was 12 months ago. But still a wonderful card, the Arceus V-Star Secret Rare. And that is the second most expensive chase card from Crown Zenith. Last but not least, number one chase card from Crown Zenith. What have we got? You all know it. The Giratina V-Star Secret Rare from Crown Zenith is the most expensive chase card in the Crown Zenith set. If we go back 1 year, this card was a whopping $156 straight out the gates. Today you get it at just under $70, $73, $76. Anywhere between $70 and $76 at the moment this thing's selling for. If we go back 1 month, it's actually up on the month. So again, this one is really bucking the trend. So we see a couple of these top end cards from Crown Zenith really starting to either head north or level out, looking like they're about to head north. So, you know, you would have been at a loss if you bought it initially 12 months ago. That's why I don't buy cards straight out the gate. They usually always plummet, you know, a few months after release, 6 months after release. So there's never any urgency to rush into these cards. You're just going to continue to lose money doing that. I think it's too much FOMO. But up on the month, you know, a month ago it was $70. It's up to $76. 3 months ago, 73, 76. And over six, it is down on this 6 month period. But again, if you look at the last 3 months, it's slightly up. And if you look at the last month, this thing is going north. So Giratina V-Star selling for $76. I'm not sure what it goes for in a PSA 10, but you could probably add hundreds of dollars to it if you get this in a PSA 10. Really, really good value if you can find one to pick up in mint condition raw and go and get it graded yourself. Be mindful, be very wary of trying to buy singles on the internet. No matter how many photos you look at, sometimes it doesn't know justice, and it's better to buy these cards in person, singles, raw, and get them graded yourself. If you buy it already graded, someone's probably making a lot of money off you. You can do it if you don't want the fuss and headache of trying to find one and grade it yourself. But there we are, Giratina V-Star, awesome card. I'm not a big fan of Giratina. It is a big chase card, this one. It is a popular Pokemon. The Giratina is also pushing the Lost Origin price. Very expensive #1 chase card in the Lost Origin series is the Giratina, and we'll do a video on that too. But there you have it. There's about, I didn't count, there's 15, 16, 17 cards there in Crown Zenith above $10 American. So awesome set, fun set to open. I've opened a ton of Crown Zenith, and they're your most valuable cards from Crown Zenith. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate the support for the channel. If you love Crown Zenith as much as I do, feel free to check out my video. It'll be in one of these corners where we open a Crown Zenith Elite Trainer box and see what hits we can pull. See you next time on the Chase Card. Bye for now.